Good evening, everyone. This is Will from Next Big Fight podcast. This evening, I've got with me Ryan and James. How are you, lads?
How you doing, Will? How you doing, guys? How you doing, James?
Yeah, I'm okay.
You're okay. Right, so we all know why we're here. It's been announced. There was a lot of speculation. I have to hold my hands up. I thought that Hearn and AJ were going to go for someone like Takam or Briggs. Initially, I thought it was Hughie Fury. Tyson had sent out a tweet yesterday evening suggesting that there was a big announcement. I put 2 and 2 together and got 17. Credit to both of you. You both thought it was going to be Charles Martin. We'll come to you first, Ryan. Do you think this is the right test for AJ now?
Yeah, I think he's at the level where he needs to be, in a big fight. But then, the fight's big. Whether the opponent is the right test, we don't know because we don't know enough about the guy. I've just posted up a video on the Twitter page with a few videos of Charles Martin, and to me, it looks like it could be an easy night's work. But that's only just a few short clips that I've seen. We have to do a little bit more background watching of some of these fights. But
this is the point that we were making earlier, and this is why I didn't think that they would go for Charles Martin, because he is very much an unknown quantity. Despite being, I wouldn't say I'm a boxing expert by any means, but being a fan, the first time I'd seen Charles Martin fight was against Glasgow, and we only saw 3 rounds. Now, he's the IBF champ. Could we be underestimating him, James? Is he someone that potentially could be a lot better than we think?
Yeah, I think we could be underestimating him, actually, because at the end of the day, he is 6'5", he's southpaw, but you've not got to see how good he can actually be. But we'll find out when he fights AJ.
So let's look at the opponents that AJ could have thought and who were in the mix. So he had, of course, Charles Martin, who he went for. Some people mentioning Shannon Briggs, Hughie Fury, even Takam. Ryan, do you think this is the right opponent for AJ?
I wouldn't go as far as saying it's the right opponent, because it's a bit difficult to say what is the right opponent at this very moment in time, but it goes back to that.
Well, this is the beauty of heavyweight boxing. You don't need 30, 40 fights to fight for a world title. You've got AJ, whose biggest test has been at British level in Dillian Whyte.
What's this, his 16th fight? This will be?
Yeah, I think it is.
It's a fight that I personally think has been pressured on Hearn to make a big fight, especially with the Khan Canelo thing happening. Brooks not got a big name to fight at the moment, and once the talks of Charles Martin come about, there was so much pressure on social media that I think this fight had to be made, and they are at a point now where people are starting to put the pressure on Anthony Joshua and want to start seeing things from him.
Well, that's a very interesting point, Ryan. A lot of pressure has been placed on Hearn's shoulders. He was expected to make the Brook Khan fight. It didn't happen. Has he made this fight as a result of the pressure? Would he have preferred to put him in with a less risky opponent, James?
Yeah, I think the idea was Takam on it. That was what was going to happen, but obviously Charles Martin made it public that he wanted this fight, so you can't say no, can you?
But for me, he could have stick him in there with Takam.
Of the champions, he's the weakest one.
Well, go on, Ryan.
Sorry, I was going to say, there was no way they could have stuck him in there with Takam. I think it was 2 fights ago he was fighting Michael Sprott, so it's not moving Anthony Joshua on at all.
Reading's finest.
Yeah. There's no disrespect to Sprott, but
before this happened, and before it got postponed until now, when we've just been announced, did you think it was going to be Takam? Because that's where I think it was heading. Obviously, Charles Martin threw his hat in the ring, and he just went, "Listen, I've got to take this seriously."
Well, I have to agree with both of you there. I think the betting favourite would have been Takam. When Hearn was being interviewed by Kugi Bear, every time he would drop in Takam. I think us boxing fans expected him to fight someone like Takam, and I think as a result of the pressure, he's looked at Charles Martin. And we were talking about this the other day. Charles Martin, obviously represented by advisor Al Heyman, Al Heyman, being the shrewd person he was, would have been thinking, is this the right fight for Charles Martin? He's just won the IBF. So what would have Heyman's rationale been there, Ryan?
There's obviously got to be money involved in there. It must have,
I mean, has Hearn broken the bank to land Charles Martin, or has Heyman and Charles Martin underestimated AJ, or thought this is a risk that we can take?
Charles Martin is the one that's come top of the fight, hasn't he? Anthony Joshua's got the other way around. So, I would never be able to say what Heyman thinks and how Hearn thinks, but I certainly know a lot more about Hearn.
I get it in there.
James, UK there, mate?
Yeah. Yeah, I just wanted to ask a question here. What do you reckon the split is?
Well, this is interesting because Hearn does have good ties, good relationship with Al Heyman, but at the same time, Al Heyman would have recognised the fact that Charles B. Martin's going to be paying 50% in tax if he's fighting in the UK. Now, if that fight is in Vegas, then obviously the tax is much less, if not nothing at all. So I think Hearn would have broken the bank in light of all the pressure to land him. But if AJ wins, it opens massive doors. So Ryan, how do you see this fight going now that it's been scheduled for April?
Well, like I said, from the videos I've seen, I think it's there for the taking for Anthony Joshua. I think it's the easiest opponent. You say about, is it the right fight for him? If it was any other world title fight, against, or I say world title fight, but a bigger name such as Tyson Fury, the larger names out there. If there's only two opportunities for him to fight for a world title at the moment. If it was Tyson Fury, I would say no. Now more fights. The fact that this has come up is, it's too good to turn down, in my opinion. That's why I said all week that I think it would be Charles Martin. There was so much pressure put on Eddie Hearn that this is the fight that had to happen, and I do think that Anthony Joshua can win it, even from the little bit that we know about Anthony Joshua, because we still don't know a lot about him.
The little clips. I mean, if you're looking at it from that business financial perspective, even if Hearn has broken the bank, how lucrative and how marketable will AJ be if he is a world champion? Surely he'll be able to recoup whatever's been spent on this fight within the next fight or even next couple of fights, James.
Massively, 10 times over. AJ as a world champion is the story they've been working on, haven't they? Taken from Olympic gold medalists, went through ranks and world champion in 16 fights. It's a perfect fairy tale in the boxing world.
Absolutely, and
I'd say Eddie Hearn's all in on Anthony Joshua. He's all in, isn't he?
Well, this is the thing. AJ, money-wise, thank you for clarifying that. What else could he be all in, AJ? No. In all seriousness, if AJ does beat Charles Martin, and I'll come to you first, James, AJ will be world champion in April. You've got Tyson Fury, hopefully rematching Klitschko a couple of months later. Do we see a massive unification between those two at the end of the year, or do you think AJ potentially will try and beat Tyson to the post and go for Deontay Wilder?
You know what? I think he'll just have a couple of soft defences this year. I don't think after this, if he ends up winning the title, he'll take it easy, because he still needs to learn. He's still got a lot of stuff he needs to learn to do. You know what I mean? We've seen that against White, he's still learning on the job, isn't he? So,
well, it's interesting you should say that, James. I remember watching Wilder versus Deverne, and I think Wilder had got to something ridiculous like 29 or 30-0 before he met his first decent challenge, and that was for the world title. And it seems like it's exactly the same scenario here with AJ, but with much less fight. So do you think he has had enough tests, James, to take on Charles Martin?
Yeah, I think he's had enough tests, to be honest. But you can't just keep going through and just keep knocking people out. Otherwise, you'll end up like Wilder. He just went through 30 guys who were no good, just knocked them all out, learned absolutely nothing, and then stepped in with Severne. Yeah, he beat him, but Severne's got like his work rate's worse than Adrian Broner, so it wasn't much of a challenge in that sense. All he had to do was keep him at range and that.
Well, it's interesting because Wilder...
It is the right next step.
Well, Wilder, to his credit, has beaten everyone in front of him, and it remains to be seen who he fights next, whether he goes for his mandatory in Povetkin. But surely this is brilliant for British boxing, Ryan. We've got AJ fighting for the world title, Fury defending his a couple of months later. We could have 2 British world heavyweight champions in the next couple of months. That question was to you, James. So, exciting times for British heavyweight boxing.
Oh, right, sorry, I didn't hear that. When you were speaking, something's went off on my phone, and I haven't heard it. Sorry, could you repeat the question? Sorry,
surely this is a great time for British heavyweight boxing. We've got Tyson Fury, already world champion, and hopefully in a couple of months we'll have another British heavyweight champion, Anthony Joshua.
Yeah, it's brilliant for British boxing. I mean, this could possibly be the best era of British heavyweight boxing we'll ever have.
I am back.
Well, welcome back, Ryan. So I just posed a question to James. I'll pose the same question to you. Surely a great time for British boxing. We've got Tyson Fury, already multiple heavyweight champion, and hopefully AJ will be a world heavyweight British boxing champion in April. Great time.
Yeah, it's a fantastic time for British boxing. It will be that case though. If he beats Charles Martin, the haters will say with Anthony Joshua that he's beaten the easier champion and he needs to go and fight Wilder, he needs to go and fight Fury. But yeah, it'll be a good time for British boxing too. 2 British world heavyweight champions, and only good fights ahead, I think.
Absolutely. Now, before we wrap up, let's continue to talk a little bit more about the heavyweight scene. So, a lot of speculation was had as to who AJ would be fighting. He'll be fighting Charles Martin, of course. What does that leave for the likes of Hughie, Fury, David Haye? Are we expecting Haye to now announce Malik Scott and Hughie a similar opponent?
Yeah, I can see that. I think that's pretty much guaranteed. And Haye's going to fight Scott. Hughie may be going to fight Briggs, which you mentioned, Will. So I think that's the way it's going to go, isn't it? Tyson was talking about a big announcement. Now, if Hughie Fury cannot face the likes of Charles Martin, who's now off the table, AJ, who does that leave? Is Shannon Briggs a big enough opponent, or potentially could he be fighting someone like Bermane Stiverne, Ryan?
Yeah, it's difficult with Hughie Fury. One of the questions, somebody asked us a question on our Twitter page the other day about how Fury and Hughie Fury going to deal with people not wanting to fight him and struggling to get a good opponent. But I think he needs to definitely try and get in the mix now. They're all getting to that stage now where there can be some big fights down the road within the next year, 2 years. So there's certainly going to have to be a top quality opponent to possibly see your Hayes versus any Fury, and Joshua versus either one of the Furies. I hope there'll be some big fights in the coming months anyway.
Well, what remains to be...
Sorry, let me ask you then.
Go for it, James.
Question, sorry. Where do you rate Hughie next to Anthony Joshua?
Well, it was interesting.
Guys coming up.
Very good question, James. And I was having this discussion with a Twitter boxing head earlier today. Now, looking through Hughie Fury's resume, there aren't many big names there. There's only the likes of Dorian Darch. You've got some other English prospects. Who else would you say has been Hughie's biggest test to date?
What's that guy's name? I can't think of it. Didn't he say some Russian guy? I cannot think of his name. It's just kind of coming off the top of my head, but I know he beat him. But I've seen him quite a few times, honestly. Well,
another name that I saw on his resume was Shane McPhilbin, former cruiserweight. He hasn't been pulling up any trees by any means. do you think realistically he should go for someone who's of a similar level before he takes that plunge?
I mean, Shannon Briggs is, it's a decent step up, isn't it? And maybe if he's not going to fight him, maybe Takam or something like that, but he doesn't want to step too quickly. He's not like Anthony Joshua, where Anthony Joshua can jump up to this fight with Charles Martin, because I don't know, I just wanted that with Hughie Fury. I don't think he's got half the talent Tyson has, but that's just my opinion.
Well, I completely agree. I think a lot has been made of the connection there. Obviously, they're cousins. The name really has brought him big, I wouldn't say big fights, but reasonable challenges. Whether or not he has the same level of skill, who knows? Guys, I know you're both pressed for time, so...
Sorry, Will, just before we wrap this up, I just wanted to read a few of these tweets from people on here just about the AJ Charles Martin fight.
Yeah, go for it.
So, we've got, first of all, Papa Beats, he says, Martin relies on being attacked and counters hard. If Joshua has the right game plan, then he wins, no rushing.
Okay.
Let's have a look at these other ones here. You got someone saying that AJ would win knockout early doors. Somebody else makes a good point. I can't pronounce the guy's name properly, but it took 10 rounds for Charles Martin to knock out Zumbano, and that was in his 21st fight. 2 reps for Anthony Joshua, all about levels. That's from Craig Adams. Martin Doran.
I don't think you can read too much into that.
Well,
I mean, you can't read much into it. A guy fought him and a guy fought him, and it's, styles. Just
down to that
one a little bit.
Martin Doran says he's sloppy and sluggish, but he's not afraid to commit to a punch, and that will be crucial for Joshua. AJ should win. So just a few of the comments on there.
There's one more tweet I'll read out. This is from a Dan Frost in Watford. AJ, why didn't he fight Mayweather? Dan clearly a casual there, so we're gonna ignore that one, guys. We're gonna have to wrap it up. Many thanks to Ryan and James joining us. Go for it, James. One more in before we wrap it up.
Right. Will this fight go longer than White?
That's a very, very difficult question, and the reason I say that is because I personally haven't seen enough of Charles Martin. We know that he's got a power in that left hand. Whether he can go the 12 rounds with AJ stalking him, I don't know. I would personally be surprised if it does go 7 rounds. What do you think, Ryan?
I think AJ's going to be very nervous. He's going to have a lot of pressure put on him. On that night, it's going to be. I know he's Olympic gold medalist and been on the main stage, but this is going to be big for him. So I think he's going to be cautious. I think the first few rounds are going to be the sort of same as the Dylan White fight, but I do think it will finish in a knockout because from what I've seen of Charles Martin, the guy does look a little bit prone to being open. And Joshua hits hard.
He does. When you get hit, you know about it. Guys, we're going to have to wrap it up. I think the only thing left to say is, again, massive credit to both Anthony Joshua and Eddie Hearn. Joshua for taking the fight and Hearn for putting his cash cow on the line. But it will be a great night for British boxing, and thank you for listening.